Lesson 4.10 is about writing quadratic functions. So the idea is basically given points on your parabola, we have to write an equation in the three different forms. So there are videos for all this. I won't go through the whole thing, but I'd show you how the setup works. So writing in standard form, we have to remember what standard form looks like. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And let's look at those 3 points that they gave us. We have -2, -2. And they also gave us a 0, -4. And then they also gave us a 1, 1. So the idea is, how do we use the points on our graph to help us write an equation? So we're always going to plug in. These are x and y values. So whatever form you're working with, you plug in the x and y from the points they give you into the equation. So we have y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Well, my y is this -2 for this point, so I'm going to say -2 equals ax squared, so a times my x is a -2 squared, plus bx, so b times the x, which is a -2, plus c. Now let me look at the next equation and do the same thing. Just plug in the x and the y's to our standard form. So the y is a -4 equals a times b is 0 squared, or x is 0, plus b times x plus c. And then the last one, plug in the x and the y. So y equals 1 equals a times the x is a 1. This x is a 1 plus c. So let's just do a little bit of cleanup work. That first equation, we can do a little bit of simplifying, and we have -2 equals a times a -2 squared. We would square the -2 first and get a +4a, and then b times a -2 is a -2b, and then plus c. So that's that first equation. Second one, let's clean that up a little bit. We have -4 equals, well, these zeros are going to cancel those first two terms out, and we just end up with a c on that one. That's helpful if that happens. And then our last one, 1 equals, if we simplify, it's just an a plus a b plus a c. And our goal is we want to figure out what a, b, and c equal. What is a, what's b, what's c, so that we can just plug it into standard form and have our equation. Well, we already know what c is. It's -4. So how do we get a and b? So again, I'm not going to do this problem right now, and I'm sure you'll be really excited when you watch the example video on it. Do you guys remember when we had x, y, z? When we solved 3 equations in 3 variables and we ended up with this ordered triplet? That's the kind of math we do when we're solving this. We've got 3 equations with 3 variables, a, b, and c, and so it's going to be that same process. But again, watch the video on it, just because I'm not going to go through it all right here. Alright, so here's another example where they give us, or they want us to write the equation in vertex form. So I've got vertex form down here for us to reference. We do have to remember what the 3 forms look like to do these problems, but let's list off the points that they gave us. They actually gave us the vertex, which they'll do that for a vertex form, so it's really helpful. That's a 1, -3. And then they gave us an extra point on the graph. We'll just call it the other point is 3, 9. So I start these out by first plugging in the vertex, because that vertex is going to be part of our final answer. I know that it's going to be y equals a times x. Now the tricky x, it's a +1 in the vertex, which means it must have been a -1 there, squared, and that -3 goes on the end. So really, for us to write this equation, the only thing we're missing is that a value. And that's where the extra point comes in. This other point they gave us has an x and a y. And so we would just plug in that x and y. We would say 9 equals a times, that x is a 3 minus 1 squared minus 3. And basically, it gives us an equation to go ahead and solve for a, and once we have that a, we just plug it in for this a, and there's our equation. So that's just a heads up on how this works, but watch the example video for the details of finishing out the problem. Alright, this last example is intercept form. Remember, here's what intercept form looks like. And so to use intercept form, they're going to give us the two x-intercepts and then just another helpful point on the graph. So our x-intercepts, if we write those down, we have a negative 3, 0, and the other one is a 1, 0, and then they gave us just another helpful point on the graph, and really any other point would help out, but they gave us a negative 1, 8. So we can start by just putting in our intercepts because that'll be part of our final answer. Y equals, we don't know what a is yet, but we have x. If this is a negative 3, that tricky x would tell us it must have been a plus 3. And the other one is x minus 1 from the other intercept over here. Alright, so the only thing we're missing is the a value. So how do you figure out the a value? Well, that's why they gave us an extra point with an x and a y value. So we're going to plug those in. We'll say 8 equals a times negative 1 plus 3. I'm just plugging in the x and the y. Negative 1 minus 1. And now I have an equation where we can just go ahead and solve for a. We would add these, subtract these, and then just do the solving to get a on its own. Again, you'll see this in a video, and then that a value is what you would plug in here for your final answer. So watch the rest of the videos. I think there's probably just one of each example to see how these get finished up.